healthy day to everyone out there, especially those of you who have been looking up to this moment. For those of you who have been following my updates on Chevla, as you may have come to know, I have not relented on the fact that Chevla is a total cure for HIV/AIDS, or better said, is a total cure for HIV infection. Between 2021 and the later years, in the later months of 2021 up to this point in time, roughly 64 persons have been treated. Yes, there have been complaints. Like I said, there have been complaints, and efforts had been made to address each complaint for what it really is. And from all that has been gathered, not a single complaint as such was strong enough to prove that Chevla is inefficient. And when I'm talking about complaints, first and foremost, I could say out of 64 persons, 4 persons complained that they had mild stooling. There again, we had complaints from some individuals, about 3 individuals, who presented old viral load results, over 6 months old, and based on each respective viral load, it could be said that by the time they started treatment, the viral load they had could not have been the same. In one of such cases, it was around 550 something thousand, and the person made us believe that the viral load was just about 7,000. Another person was using natural therapy and made us believe that it was 6,000 later against 5,000, but it turned out that it was much more than that. Only one case of a man from Uganda who had very low viral load, but his case was about 6 months old before he started therapy. And so by the time he had ended therapy, it was as if he needed just one more bottle to clear the entire thing from his system. So he took a break and sought to come back again for treatment. And by the time he was coming back, I asked for a new viral load test, which he did, and it was below 100. And he decided to take a break again. And by the time he came within a month's period, I asked for a new viral load from him, since his case has to be treated specially, and it was over 1 million copies. It turned out that at the machine, he wasn't given the right result, as that could not have been possible because he was also on ARV in between these 2 periods of time. I mean, in between this point in time. And so the right thing to do in his case was to reconcile with the actual viral load that he actually has, and before treatment could start. Then, of course, I had 2 cases of hyperimmune sensitivity disorder. In one of those cases, the body of that individual was rejecting ARV, was rejecting herbs, and so the hyperimmune sensitivity disorder had to be treated. And it also rejected Chevla to a point. So we had to treat the hypersensitivity disorder. And currently, the person has just finished taking Chevla and is yet to go for a confirmatory test, because after they finish taking Chevla, I do ask for confirmatory test from them. And what that means is that when you finish taking Chevla, you have to wait for a minimum of 3 weeks without taking anything. You don't take ARV, you don't take Chevla, you don't take anything. You wait for a minimum of 3 weeks, then you can go for a confirmatory test. All right, so I think that particular lady is just waiting before she goes for a confirmatory test. Then there are about 4 cases of individuals who could not pay up, and they ended up saying it's because it did not work. Only after a month, 2 or 3 of not being able to pay up. So I ruled out those cases. Right, then there's a case from South Africa where the wrong ARV was being taken, an ARV that has a very high toxicity, and the individual began to react to it. And so that led to a lot of complications, and the best thing was that the person would have to come back for treatment all over again. So by and large, these are not cases for one to be bothered over, because you can easily say that the problem in those cases is from here. All right, that said, I receive lots and lots of requests, inquiries, and even advices from people on how to go about this issue of presenting Chevla to mankind, that it's that it does do this and it doesn't do that. And what we have is that for a while I felt that, just like how I handle every other thing that I do, since I am gifted to the art, and since there's a lot of spiritual support behind what I do, I don't just throw my things out there. I do my things very methodical, so that when people are well informed, so that when they approach you, they know exactly what they are coming to do. And it does not exclude Chevla. But I can safely throw Chevla out there into the public after it has been registered, because Chevla has not been registered yet. The sensitivity of the matter at hand in respect to Chevla requires that I be thoroughly sure of what I'm saying, not just because I was told in a vision that it does this, and these will follow suit. No, it has to be proven. And for the past 3 years, that's what I've been trying to do. And it's almost come as far as having 64 persons treated. And I can safely say it's been good. Outside of these cases, I've not had complaints from any other person, not at all. But there are certain things that are peculiar with the treatment of HIV, especially in Nigeria. Virtually every client I have, or I had from Nigeria, requested that it remains private, and that on no account is it to be made public. Virtually every one of them. That individuals gave their fellow carriers hope is that people from Ghana spoke out. People from Uganda spoke out. Encouragement from South Africa and Zimbabwe that Chevla does work. Whilst those in Nigeria keep it behind the scene. And so someone could approach me from Nigeria and say, somebody says that I should see you for so and so. And he will not tell you that the person who sent him says it works. He said he wants to try. And so I realized the predicament of the carriers in Nigeria and what they actually do face. And I decided to let it be. But you see, the world has come far enough with this problem of being infected with HIV. And so when it comes to being bold enough to step forth and make claims of a cure, it's not something someone just says and allows things to just lie low like that. Evidence has to be provided. I mean, produced. And so you find that it wouldn't stop at these claims, especially as the evidences at hand are from people in other countries. Nigerians have to cooperate because, in the finality, it's for the good of those other people out there who need to be convinced, who are not courageous enough, like those who have stepped forth to give Chevla a trial. I am ready to be subject to all forms of medical testing as regards to whether Chevla really does work or not. We are here not for limitations of funds. I would rather have to do these things myself and make them public, open. That is, whilst a patient is being treated, the patient is housed, the viral load is taken, the vitals, other medical test values are taken, liver function tests, and so on and so forth. And he's housed so that nobody goes out there and comes back and we begin to hear stories. And when we also consider the delicacy of the matter at hand, we would have to take utmost precaution to make sure that results are maintained in utmost integrity. And so these things have not yet been established in the way the medical world, in the way medical science will come to say, yes, we now believe there is a natural therapy that really does work against HIV/AIDS. Now, I have to also add in certain things. I could remember back then when Yaradua was the president of the country, I approached the Nigerian Natural Medicine Development Agency at Kofu Abayomi for a collaboration on this. And I was asked to write a proposal to that effect, which I did, stating the herb and everything. But I put a clause in it, telling them that it is naturopathic. Naturopathic in the sense that it is not naturopathic, but naturopathic. And that a great difference does lie between these two designations and what they convey in respect to using natural substances to heal. When it comes to naturopathic, it means that when you take that substance, it is subject to the body's capacity to allow itself to heal. You don't need to pray if you want to. If you don't want to, you don't need to pray. The body has a certain mechanism of it that tells it whether it's taking in the right thing or not. And when it does take in the right thing, whether it is a nutritive substance or a remedial substance. And so naturopathic has to do with the natural ability of the body to absorb potencies that bring about curative processes in the body. But when it comes to natural, I'm talking about someone who is gifted to augment where the natural potencies are not able to drive in healing potencies far enough to bring about curative processes. We have known through the ages that certain people do come in as healers into our various communities. And to a certain extent, some communities do recognize these people as people who tend to have the ability to use herbs and other substances in ways that can be described to be magical. In other words, what I'm trying to say is that you may know that a certain leaf does this, but if you take it, you don't get the desired result until you go to the herbalist and the herbalist gives it to you and you begin to see the desired result. It means that that herbalist has something you don't have, despite the fact that he is also giving you something you know that works. And so that is what I mean by naturopathy. It's the ability to drive the healing potency of a substance that is natural for healing so that the desired curative process can become accomplished. And so I am a naturopath, and I try to explain this in very simple words in my proposal, but that was not taken into consideration. Months later, I heard over the radio that Nigeria has found a cure for HIV, to my dismay. But I cannot accuse anyone because I don't know what went in there after I had submitted that proposal. 6 months later, it was retracted that, oh, sorry, what we thought was a cure does not work. Intuitively, I knew it was in respect to what I had written. But shamefully, how could they have gone ahead without me? I'm making no accusations, but I am just saying these are my suspicions. Suspicions I believe that they are true. But if not, accept my apologies. So that said, the herb for Chevla is a very common herb that can be gotten in an African community or in the tropics. And when it's applied in the traditional sense, it virtually works on common infections like malaria, or so to say. But when it is naturopathized, the vortex of the healing energy, the vortex of the healing energy becomes something out of the ordinary that enwraps the human body in the energy dimension and is able to drive this healing potency with such force that allows it to go in there into the body and, if I have to say, engulf those particles of HIV as well as the infected cells in order to bring them to destruction. I am not a pathologist, and so I cannot sit down and say, okay, this is the absolute scientific processes that are involved. But I know a lot that it's got to do with phagocytosis. So it's an enhancement of the first stages in the line of body defense mechanism against invading pathogens. That's my conviction as a designer. That's a medical intuitive when it comes to what I am using for HIV. Now, secondly, science has its own modalities. And when you look at the modality that has to do with Chevla, science may not readily take it in because it's more or less bound to a particular individual. So I could go to lengths to prove that, look, this is real. Science is going to draw its boundary. So as far as it's bound to you, we cannot establish it as a scientific modality, as a scientific process, because you could die tomorrow and it goes with you. I know about these things. I know about the so-called unseen war between science and orthodoxy, because when you really want to talk about orthodoxy, it's what is natural that is really orthodox. I don't want to get myself involved in all that. As for instance, if you tell me that banana cures headache, And again, you come to tell me that it's because science does not want people to know that banana cures headache. That's why banana is not curing headache. My friend, something is really wrong with what you're saying. If banana cures headache, just go take banana and your headache goes. Alright, so like I said, I don't want to get into all those things, that claims that are made, and what is made claim on is right there on the street. And again, you don't get the results as you should get from them. Let that be a discussion for another time. Maybe sometime again when I can put up a discourse on that. But for now, what I'm just trying to say that what I'm saying doesn't fall into the category of someone saying what is easily accessible there those days. And it's because science is saying, don't put it out there, that it is not working. No? I don't fall into this class of nature, should I say protagonist? Now, Chevla works, and it can be proven. And science is right if it says that it is very personalized. And it's because it is very personalized, I have to toe a more or less parallel path to science. Because definitely, if I'm not alive today, and if there's no other person who can do what I can do, that it will rest for a while. But for as long as I am alive, I will do the best I can do. Today, there are human beings who are grateful for what has been done. And after 3 years of working behind the scene, must I continue to keep this thing away from other individuals? No, it's not proper that I do that. And so, from this point onwards, it is not that I'm going to put Chevla out there so that you get it over the counter. No. My administration of Chevla is going to remain extemporaneous until I am able to meet up certain demands of NAFDAC, which, as you all know, entails funds. Funds, we're talking about HIV/AIDS, and we're talking about the remedy for HIV/AIDS. They want everything that has to do with that cure to be as standard as possible. I'm talking of tens of millions of naira here, which at this point in time, I cannot invest in. And at this point in time, the confidence to bring in the banks and the financial institutions to look into the matter is not as it's not convincing enough. And so, on my part, there has to be perseverance. And when that time, which I believe I am walking into, finally arrives, I'll find it very strange that such a proven claim is out there in our climate, in our society, and the financial institutions want to turn their back on it. One of the major inhibitions I have faced is that Chevla is being administered extemporaneously. I have received over 5,000 requests. I have treated only 64, simply because it's extemporaneous. If it's not registered by NAFDAC, they are not interested in it. But that's okay for now. Someday we are going to get there. And so, for those of you who are concerned, I am not making any empty claim. Chevla has been tried. It's been tested. Absolutely no contraindications. Yes, we could include the issue of mild stooling as a contraindication. That is nowhere near anything to give anyone a headache. A child of 22 months have taken Chevla for a viral load of about 10,000 copies. Currently, a child of 3 years and 2 months is taking Chevla. It's that safe. I have not tried it on a pregnant woman, but I know it's okay for women who are pregnant. However, despite its efficiency, what I have not established is that Chevla is a pre-prophylaxis, but definitely a post-prophylaxis. What I mean is that once you get infected and you take Chevla, that infection is gone and it's going to go completely. As to taking Chevla before having an intercourse, an insecure intercourse, I cannot ascertain to what extent its efficiency is going to go. But I believe that something really amazing is going to come out of it when it is tested for prophylactic properties. And so, from observations that have been clinical reports that have been gathered so far from my patients, Chevla has no contraindications. It's not harmful to any part of the body. It's safe enough for children. The only dimension I'm going to put into place here is this. It's a naturopathic remedy. Means it has a gifted backing, which is highly spiritual. And as you know, when medical science brings out a drug, it never says 100%. But for the fact that it cuts across board, it means that there could be some losses here and there. And in my case, being a naturopathic remedy means it has received a certain dimension of spiritual support by virtue of the gift. And what it means is that, like every act of healing, it's not everyone that may get the desired result. Based on instances or conditions that are taken into consideration spiritually. And if I have to come in there, taking a good look into what could bring about such a challenge on Chevla, I would rather say that one is you must be free of anything that constitutes your auric matrix in such a way that when something natural, something light enters into you, a conflict of interest does not arise thereby. You have to live in such a way that if your bodily matrix is masculine, let it remain masculine. If it's feminine, let it remain feminine. So that when it comes to the effects of the embracing light, it does not encounter a confusion of bodily energies, as may bring about a challenge to its healing potency. I'm not saying it's a must, I'm just saying be on the watch out. Then thirdly, when we talk about healing, this is about a healing process. If you really must come to terms with it, when you want to undergo a healing process, you really have to put a lot behind you. Debauchery, and so much else. So that mind and body can be attuned in such a way as can have it absorb very high potencies of light healing radiations, which will enable the desired results to be attained, indeed accomplished. And so, if I really have to put in contraindications in respect to Chevla, they are dimensional things. Occult presence, the battery, lack of faith in healing and God, and everything within that dimension of consideration. When we come to the biology of it, I have absolutely no reason to see or impose any contraindication. Only that so far no pregnant woman has taken Chevla, and so I cannot tell you that when it comes to a pregnant woman taking Chevla, this could be the resultant outcome. Right. I have spoken in this manner so as to intimate those of you who have been questioning me for so long. I have come life so as to re-establish greater confidence and trust in you that indeed this thing is for real. Now, what should follow is I want more confident individuals who are ready to go public with the outcome of their being administered with Chevla to step forth. For now, I don't have a place where such a trial could be undertaken. But by and large, I am not stepping down on the fact that I have made my claims. So even if eventually I walk up to NAVDAC telling them I want Chevla now registered, NAVDAC may insist that they are not going to establish it as a cure despite all evidences. And so, just as they told me initially, and so what you see there is for the treatment and management of HIV because it is herbal. But it will lie. You say, okay, let me not say it's going to lie on the public. Because what really should be is that it should undergo a scientific test and analysis with patients to ascertain to what extent it really works against HIV. And so, from what has been gathered so far, we have not had resurgence of viral load. But when you go and do your PCR test, your confirmatory PCR test, it's not just about active RNA particles. You still have the proviral DNA and possible other nucleic particles, that float in the bloodstream due to apoptosis, and that is apoptosis of virally infected cells, the HIV cells, the cells that have been infected by HIV. When they burst to die, contents are released into the bloodstream. And it is true that the body does have its own cleansing mechanism as well. And so advanced PCR tests may come out and tell you that provider DNA is positive, these are positive. But we've had a case like that. A lady from Zambia who had to do that test, a comprehensive test in South Africa. So they just told her positive, that she's still positive. But they gave her no viral load. And she became rather confused, you know. And so that brings me to the next subject of topic. What happens after it is confirmed that there are no resurgence, that there is no resurgence of viral load after taking Chevla? To know whether you're still a carrier is that when a virus enters into the body, within 3 weeks, it's going to multiply to a point that the PCR test will detect it and probably even give you a viral load. Yes. Not to talk of a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, and 6 months. You just can't escape it. But I have people 2 years, 3 years on the line, 1 year, no resurgence of viral load. But they have a problem, and that problem is that some of them still test antibody positive. And it costs a lot of effort to try and explain to the layman that when he goes to the hospital and a pre-pin test is done, that it's not about the virus in his body, it's about how the body has reacted to the possible presence of the virus in his body. And that being the first line of test, a lot of people are not comfortable with the fact that the virus is gone, and they may yet, when an advanced test is done, they test positive. When it comes to the pinprick test, that's the strip or the card test, a lot of them are on the verge of being detected as negative. Negative. It comes out either faintly on, it doesn't even come at all. You know, you have the control and the target. Many a case, it's very faint. And when it's so faint, it turns out you must end it as inconclusive. But then when you go for an advanced test, maybe a Western blot or an advanced ELISA test, you know, you'll come out as somebody who has been infected with HIV at some point in time in your life. Because there are still so many other nucleic acid particles that are in the body that can be detected. But you don't have any viral load. And that you don't have any viral load without taking anything for 6 months, for 1 year, 2 years, and 3 years means that HIV is dead in you, completely dead. But I know that the world out there may not establish this fact because Chevla is not a mainstream drug. But it's also necessary for those who are interested in taking Chevla to be duly informed as to what their status has become. Maybe the day science succeeds at it, then some of those issues will be resolved. Maybe the day science succeeds in taking out the HIV, then they'll begin to explain what it means to be antibody positive. Try to do that now while science has not attained to this level of accomplishment. It's more like, I don't know, probably trying to water the desert with drops of water. But for those individuals who are interested, it is good to be properly informed. Still being antibody positive or proviral, excuse me, please. I'm rolling my thigh. All right. Having the proviral DNA in the body, still being detectable, does not mean that you have HIV in you. For HIV to be active in you, it must be able to infect a cell, especially the CD4 cells, as well as other cells that do have the CD4 plus marker. And if for a minimum of 3 months there's no resurgence of viral viral load in you, then of course you no longer have the HIV as far as taking Chevla is concerned. But there's room for complaints. There's also room for possible misadventure, and there's also room for different bodily makeups that may not readily um, subscribe to Chevla. And of course, as we move on, the science of it gets more intricate, so to say. We'll go beyond HIV-1 and HIV-2. We'll start talking about subtypes. We also start talking about superinfection, as well as recombinant forms, and so on and so forth, so as to ascertain the true extent of efficacy of the claim being made on Chevla. Today, I cannot just go into that. What I do is you wait for 3 months, you wait for 6 months, let's see what happens. As to what exact type of HIV-1 you have, whether you have a recombinant form in you, whether you are superimposed on, all those things I cannot determine, because I do not have the scientific support to go to that length. But as it is, by and large, it is presumed that everyone cannot be so disposed with just one particular variant of HIV. And the more the numbers come and the more the successes are recorded, then the more it can be said that yes, Chevla is quite potent over this range of possible HIV genetic mutations. I have not worked on HIV-2, but HIV-2 is included in it. Okay. And so these are things that are still at hand, and which the future, I believe the future holds to be conquered when it comes to Chevla. All right, I was expecting to see some questions, but none is appearing. So let that be said, and I wish you all, as you all know, December 1st, it's celebrated as World AIDS Day. So I've chosen this day to pass on a word or two to you, to pass on the hope, the strength of courage, and the handkerchief that wipes out the tears from your eyes, that a solution is really there, and that from the will of the light, mankind has not been abandoned at such to the mercy of its own self-implication. And as it affects Chevla, so does it affect so many incurable infectious diseases. And so does it also affect so many other ailments that are today considered incurable. But we are going to take them one after the other. It's not that if you come to me and say you want to treat diabetes or this cancer, I will not do that. But I'm not going to give them the push I'm giving to Chevla today, because we really need to establish the fact that Chevla really does work. For those of you who have listened, thank you.